Welcome to Visual Composer Video Academy. In this video tutorial, we are going to cover the very basics of using Visual Composer on your WordPress site. This video tutorial will be very useful for those who have just installed Visual Composer for the first time, or maybe those who are willing to do so in the nearest future. So, once you will install Visual Composer under Plugins section, you will see Visual Composer option appears in your WordPress dashboard. Before starting to build your pages, posts or custom post types, make sure that you have enabled Visual Composer for those types of posts. This can be done under Visual Composer Role Manager. Here you can adjust settings, allow or restrict access to Visual Composer for different user roles. As I am logged in as an administrator, I will make sure that I have enabled Visual Composer for posts and pages. If you have any custom post types, those settings appear there as well. So, once this is done, make sure to save changes and you are good to go using Visual Composer. So, I'm just going to add a new page and I will specify some things like using full width template. Okay, so as you can see, once you install Visual Composer, there is a small Visual Composer menu appears in your page or post editor. You can use backend editor or you can use front-end editor of Visual Composer. Today we are going to look on how to use front-end editor. So I'm just going to push front-end editor button and I will be automatically redirected to Visual Composer front-end editor. As you can see, I have a blank page without any title specified and without any content. So, on the top of this page, you can see a Visual Composer menu. This menu will be always there and it has easy access to content elements, templates, different page settings, responsive options, switch back to backend editor, save draft, publish or exit. So let's start by looking on Add Element menu. Once you will push Add Element menu, you will see an Add Element menu window appears with all the content elements that are included in Visual Composer. It is important to mention that you can extend the number of elements offered in Visual Composer by using one of many Visual Composer add-ons which are developed by third-party vendors. So, there are different types of elements which all you can use on your site. There are different groups, so it's a bit easier to find the element of your choice. And also you can use a search, like if we, for example, type a button, we'll see all the elements related to the button. I am not going to add any element right now, as we are going to look through the other options. The next option is templates. There are different templates, there are my templates, so once you create a layout which you want to reuse later on, you can save it as a template. And there are default templates. Default templates are templates which came together with your Visual Composer version, which are well designed sections for different sites. As you can see, there is a preview of each template in a backend style editor, which allows easily to understand how the template will going to look on your site. And there is also add option, which means that this template with all the elements will be added to your page. So if you don't have any time to build your page, you can use one of those many different templates as a basis for your WordPress page. And again, you can also search templates and if you have created already layout, you just name your template, like my template, and push save button. So it will save all the layout of which you have designed already. The next option is settings. Settings allow two things. First one is define page title. For example, I will make my page, just going to save it. Okay. And there is also custom CSS settings, which allows inserting some custom CSS if you need any and have CSS knowledge. Next option is responsiveness, which allows you quickly look on how your layout will look on different mobile devices. So once I'm switching to different layouts, I can easily see how my website looks on the mobile and tablets and so on. As mentioned before, backend editor will redirect you back to WordPress admin with the backend editor open. Save draft and publish, these are the standard options of WordPress. And exit will just exit the page, exit the front-end editor, so you can look on the page. So once you have a blank page, you can start by building your first layout. The first and most important element of Visual Composer is row. Row is a section which allows inserting different content elements within this section. So once you add any elements to your page, there will always be row as a basis for this. But it's important to mention that one row, of course, can contain as many content elements as you want. So I will start by adding a row. Once you add a row, you see a row and a column appears on your layout. Why do we have row and column? Because of the fact that you not necessarily want your element to be on the full width of content. Maybe you want to have some text on the left side and image on the right side. You would like to divide this row into columns. So this is why there are separate controls for the column element. We will look on controls a little bit later. Now we will just cover the basic of defining the number of columns for your row. So as you can see, you can expand those row and column menus. I'm just going to expand the row menu and choose the second option, which is change layout. Once I click on the change layout, I can see predefined row layouts. It's one column, two columns, again two but with a different width, and so on. Also, you can use custom settings to set your own column, which uses default bootstrap principles, which is based on 112 plus 112 or 1/2 and a 1/2. So at the end, the sum should be 1. But I'm just going to use some predefined layout for my columns and choose, for example, 3 equal columns. Okay. Now, as you can see, I have 3 columns, and within each of the column I can insert my content elements. I can start by just pushing this add element button and, for example, choose text block, which will basically insert a simple text block. As you can see, once I've inserted the text block, there is a pop-up menu, a parameter window, how we call it at WP Bakery, appears for this text. This parameter window has all the parameters related to specific text block element. And as you can see, there is option to edit text as such, so we can delete something, make a line break, maybe even change the color. I'm sure you are familiar with such type of editor. And once we click save, you will see changes instantly take place. Also, we can add some animation and so on. And of course, different elements has different options, so you will have to just browse through the elements and see all the tons of customization options that are offered within Visual Composer. Please pay attention that there are also design option, general option, and other tabs available for different content elements, which allows even more advanced customization for those type of elements. If we start to look on the parameter window, there are another few things to mention. Once you make changes, of course, don't forget to save changes, or if you don't want to save changes, just push close. Another option to close window is just by pushing the close button. But I'm going to open parameter window once again. If you are working with a layout and want to see how it looks without losing or maybe without saving changes, you can use this minimize button, which will minimize the parameter window so it takes much less place, and this is easier to look on your content. So once I click it once again, the parameter window is back to normal. The next option is presets. What is the presets? Well, you are working on your WordPress site and you insert the buttons, and you don't want to style those buttons each of the time. So you preferably want to style one button one time, and then once you insert this button once again on your site, it will look as it should, according to your design principles or brand book. So once I have set specific parameters for any element, I can choose save this element as a preset. Once I click save as a preset, name it, and just save changes, I will see my new preset appears here. So I have few test presets, as you can see. And yes, if you want this preset to be as default, which means once you add elements through add element window, it will be using this preset, you can set it as default. So once I'm going to insert text block, it will use this nice preset. You can also unassign presets, restore defaults. You can delete presets, add new presets, set new defaults. This is everything possible with Visual Composer. So now let's look a bit on our navigation in editor. As you can see, once I hover element, there is a small menu for element appears, which shows the title of the element, edit option, duplicate element. So if I push duplicate, it will duplicate element, and delete element. So if you don't need such an element, you can easily delete it. There is also a drag option. So for example, I have added text block into this column, but it should be added to the next one. I can simply drag it to the next one or drag it back again. So it's not a big problem. Again, if we look on the row, there is row parameters and column parameters. So what's the difference? If, for example, I'm going to style a row, I'm just going to change the background of whole row by making it a bit gray. So you see, all my row has become gray. But for example, I want this column to be another color. So I just go into the columns and set some different background for this column. And here you go. So you can play around like this and create different layouts. And of course, there are more options like column gap and full height, row, and other parameters. As mentioned before, you should look into each and every element of Visual Composer to discover how many options are offered by Visual Composer. And the next thing is, so if you need to add another element into this column, you can simply choose add element here, and for example, I want to insert single image. Okay, so here you go, you have inserted blank single image. You just choose select image, and you will have your WordPress media library open. So you can just choose image or upload if you wish, and set image. Let's save it. So yes. here you go. Of course, there are more more parameters, more options to change for this element, like alignment, image default style. Maybe you want it to be circle. So here you go. And maybe let's use the size full or something like that. Again, it is up to you to play around with it. And again, you can drag it as you wish. So, getting back to controls, let's agree on one important thing. All the elements of Visual Composer are marked with green navigation, green menu, while all the columns or inner sections are marked with the yellow color, and rows, inner rows and containers are marked with blue section. So it's easily to understand your structure. And now I'm just going to delete this one. Let's quickly create a good looking site, not site, simple page on the basis of what we have learned. So I will start by adding a text block. So a thing to mention, you don't have to necessarily add a row. If you're just going to add a text block, the row will appear automatically. So Visual Composer understands that you want to insert a row. I will divide this row into 2 columns, and I'll place my text on the right side. Now I'm just going to write some text here. So to be quicker, I'm just going to duplicate it, copy paste. Okay, here you go. I have some paragraph text. Now I would like to add some heading. So for those type of text, we have a custom heading element, which allows you also using Google fonts if you wish. So I'm just going to choose custom text, yes, and type my heading. This is my heading. I can specify the tag, text alignment, font size. Let's set it to 36, line height. Well, let's change the color to gray and maybe use some Montserrat font. Okay, here you go. That was quick. And on our left side, we're just going to add a single image element and choose some image. Okay, here I'm going to specify the size full, and let's make image style rounded, which means the corners of the image will be rounded. Okay, it looks nice. So this is basically it, how you can work with Visual Composer. Just to show you some more advanced things, let's make sure that this custom heading element has some padding behind it. So I'm going to make this window a bit smaller. So I'm just add some padding, and maybe I would like to remove a margin so it will be a bit the same line with my image. Just going to save changes, and here you go. That's basically simple layout created with Visual Composer, and of course now you are familiar with the very basics of Visual Composer. Now you can just publish your page and close the Visual Composer editor. So here you can see how easy it is to create a page with Visual Composer. Thank you.